unit testing is the most common testing activity that the companies and organizations doing software development usually do. The unit testing is also called several times something like module testing or component testing, and on the V model of testing or in the testing levels, it's also the most lowest or the closest test level to programming activities. The unit testing is related to programming because in unit testing the idea is to capture all the basic and fundamental problems. The focus is usually on one module or the interface of the module or activities defined by one clearly defined component. When we are using several components, it's already integration testing, so the unit testing usually involves only programming tasks and therefore it's usually done by the developers themselves. So like said, the unit testing is the most common form of software testing. Basically every organization in the world does this type of testing work simply because it's so simple and also because it doesn't require any sophisticated hardware or software components. The unit testing means the inspection and testing of one module, component or object, usually right after or during the development or modification work. And the unit testing activities, such as ensuring that there's no memory leaks or that the programming work or source code notation adheres to the coding conventions, is something that the developers can do themselves before committing the work into a project. So, the unit testing, what it actually is that it's usually black box or glass box testing, since on this scale it's the most these approaches are most useful. There's not too many details, so one developer or tester in some cases can see from the glass box or black box that something isn't working and also has an educated guess on why this is happening. Because the unit testing only focuses on one object, it's usual to use mock objects, test studs or something else like test simulators to simulate the behavior of connected systems, components and or modules. So on this large scale picture where we have one huge system composing of several different components, if we talk about unit testing, we only talk about testing one component and doing internal testing to ensure that everything works and testing to ensure that the interface works as intended. So, what are the things that should be tested while doing unit testing for one module? So this is sort of a checklist or list of ideas what to check when doing unit testing for own module. Types of inputs and limits of these inputs, for example, for the attributes or the modules, or can we use characters or do we have tests to ensure that there's always something that can be, for example, converted into numbers. The user-given values are obvious since user has the ability to do whatever they please. Iteration controllers, do we have off by one errors in while or for or whatever structures. Memory leaks, if we have manually operated memory management, do we leak memory, do we reserve memory correctly, and most importantly, do we free memory correctly. The code coverage, for example, do we have enough cases to at least once try out every single line of code in the module. Malformed, unexpected or missing messages, what happens if we get messages out of order or the synchronization or other synchronization breaks, or we get messages in unexpected order so that we are not capable of doing everything necessary for normal operations. Do we have visibility issues? Is everything that needs to be visible visible? And on the other way around, do we have everything that's internal or private or protected set so? So are the modules able to adhere to the coherent and well-defined object-oriented design principles? Is the general syntax okay? Do we have all the required comments in place? Do we adhere to the coding conventions? Are the names correctly created? Since, as it's usually said, if you create source code and then leave it into repository for 1 month, it's not only it's also you who has to get familiar with the code. So even if you are reading something that you created yourself, it seems to you like it was written by someone else when enough time has passed. So are you following all the commenting principles? Are you following the naming principles or good programming practices or coding conventions in general? Also, if necessary, how the special characters are used or how the special characters are taken into account. For example, when using 2 different programming languages or doing something else which may require specific attention for details. So these sort of things are things that are caught in unit testing, and these sort of things are the things that good developer should ensure on their own code before committing their work into a programming project.